skill that you've introduced them to, in some sense, it's a failure, right? So first you have to have a workshop that introduces a skill that people want to acquire, and then you have to design the workshop such that they actually acquire at least an introductory understanding of the skill so that they walk out and are able to do something. Does that make sense? Okay, so workshops are super hard to do well. 3 phases. There's a pre-workshop phase, the in-workshop phase, and the post-workshop phase. And the idea here is that you want to, prior to the workshop, talk to the people who are coming and say, you know, I'd really like you to have X before you come. In the case of this workshop, what was it that I wanted you guys to have before you came? A GitHub account. Yeah. During the workshop, we're going to go through a bunch of things where you're going to use GitHub, you're going to learn to use MOREA, you're going to do a crazy little, you're going to develop a workshop, actually. It'll be a workshop about the same level of quality as your data science project, but, you know, nonetheless, a workshop it will be. Okay. And then afterwards, the post-workshop phase, which is really important, is giving participants an idea of, oh, you got a taste of it during these 2 hours. Here's what happens next. Here's what you would look at next. Here's who you would talk to next. You know, here's how you would build on it. Because obviously, any complicated skill, you're not going to be a master of it after 2 hours. You know, but it should be enough to have you actually decide whether or not you want to learn more about it. Okay, so the pre-workshop phase could be reading a paper, could be installing software, GitHub, could be recommended or optional. Now, I'll tell you, in the case of the workshops you're going to be designing for this group, okay, the pre-workshop phase has to be very minimal, right? So you're not going to ask someone to go out and learn the Dart programming language, you know, for next week's workshop. None of you want to, you know, you don't want to do it, right? So one of the tricks in the development of these workshops is that you can require a little bit of work from people in advance, but not a lot. So the in-workshop phase, the idea here is that, and there's a lot of different ways to do it, so it's somewhat unconstrained, but you don't want to have people spend a lot of time looking at slides. Like, you're probably already going, oh my God, how many more slides does he have? You know? And so, you know, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes of slides at a time, and then shift to some kind of activity where people are doing something. And then after a little bit of that, maybe you could go back to some more slides. But you want to think about the fact that 2 hours is a long time for people to be doing things, and you have to give them a variety of chances to actually exercise and not just passively be listening to you. So the heuristics, we've got 2 hours, probably about 6 different pieces to the workshop. In the case of this workshop, there's 9. And each segment should, you know, generally be 15 minutes or less. Okay, and then in our workshop, the last 10 minutes, we always want the last 10 minutes devoted to an assessment activity that will be kind of built in and provided to you. So actually, you just have an hour and 50 minutes to play with. All right, then the post-workshop phase. This could be anything really in the case of this group, but good things are, okay, here's another workshop, or here's some online place you can go to learn more about whatever it is you're doing. Or maybe these are faculty who have expertise in this area, or here's a research group doing things in this area. Something so that when people walk out and they're inspired, hopefully by your workshop, they go off and continue. That makes sense? Okay, so we're using this technology called MOREA. This is something I built this software. I built it about 10 years ago because I really hated the University of Hawaii curriculum software. It's called La Lima. This, like, so annoying. So I just said, I could do this in a weekend, and took longer. But anyway, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. There's a bunch of people that use this. There's people in Israel that use it, and, you know, all over the place. And so the MOREA, it stands for modules, outcomes, readings, experiences, assessments. Those are the kind of components. You put them together to build a course. That was what I was originally doing, is building courses. And then when I joined the EPSCoR project, I thought, well, this would be interesting to see if we can use MOREA for workshops. And it was interesting because, in fact, when you try to use MOREA to do a workshop, you come out with something that's a little different from when you use MOREA to build an actual class. So today we're just going to look at the kinds of things that, the kinds of MOREA sites that are actually useful for workshops. So this is just a screenshot of this actual workshop, okay? And theoretically, if I've done my job right, it kind of illustrates all the best practices that we've developed over the past year for doing workshops in the Data Fellows program. Okay, so you can see there's a bunch of experiences. There's 9 of them. They generally last about 10 to 15 minutes, so on and so forth. I'll give you a page that kind of articulates all these best practices at the end. All right, so the process of creating a high quality workshop is you're going to first start with a kind of initial design, and it's going to obey these heuristics. You're going to hopefully at least 2 weeks before the workshop is due, you'll submit what's called a pull request, which will enable an administrator, usually me, to take a look at your workshop and say, oh yeah, that looks good, but on this page you might want to do such and such differently. So you get a little bit of help. Then there'll be an assessment process at the end of the workshop where people can give feedback. And then the next time the workshop's done, it can be a little better because you'll have the results of the first time through. Okay, so the good news for you folks is that many of the workshops this year were done last year, and so we have assessment data about what worked and what didn't. So a big part of what you guys will be doing is taking an existing workshop, looking at the assessment results, and then making it better. So you won't be starting from scratch. Some of the workshops will be starting from scratch, and I don't know, it's kind of a toss-up whether it's more fun to start from scratch as opposed to start with an existing thing. I guess it depends on how much you're interested in the actual topic. All righty, there we go. That was my lecture. How long did I take? Where are we at? 2:33. Okay. All right. So now we're going to do an interactive experience. You can open up your laptop, and we're going to set up a workshop. And there we go. So the general process is going to look like this. You're going to start, and you're going to make a fork of this repository called Change Hawaii. And then you're going to make modifications to that fork, your own local copy of this repo to reflect whatever your workshop's going to do. When you have it ready, you're going to issue a pull request that can be reviewed, and then it will, if it passes review or after some review and improvement, it gets merged back into the main repository, and then it's available for everybody to look at. Okay, so pretty easy. We just have to know how to make a fork, and we have to create the contents. Duck soup, right? Not really. Let's see how hard it is. Okay, so the first thing is we're going to, in a browser. So you guys all have this page on your laptop because we're going to actually just go through it right now. So the first thing is, in a browser, go to https://github.com, change Hawaii. So if you all click on that, we'll go here, and I realize what I actually want to do is open this link in a new tab. And then, hey, Michelle, yes. Is there some way I can hide this Zoom banner at the top? This stuff here, you know?
Yes. This one. Should be a way to just make it disappear.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. So now we go here. Okay, and you're going to click on this link to create a new fork. So if I go here, I'm going to click fork, and then we should get to a page like this. So you guys at a page like this. Okay, let me know if you're not, because we're going to keep going here. Okay, and then the owner should be your own personal account. So in my case, it says Philip M. Johnson. Turns out I have like a lot of different GitHub accounts. So there's different choices, but in general, you want to do your personal account. And then the repository name should be just the same. Okay. Copy the main branch only. And then we'll click this create fork link. Okay. And then GitHub churns away. We get this. And now we have a copy of the main. In order to do that, we're going to use this cloud-based technology called Gitpod. All right, so to do that, we can go to gitpod.io. So I'm going to open this link in a new tab, which you might want to do also just so that you can click back and forth. And I will log out. Okay, so you're going to get a page like this. Probably. Everybody at a page like this. Okay, and then you're going to want to say continue with GitHub. And this might require you to log in, unless like me, you've done it recently. So if you have to go through the credentials thing, please do that. And then when everybody's at this page, just raise your hand so I know that you got there.
Click like get a demo.
No, I just clicked on login with GitHub. So yeah, so try for free, sorry. If you got to that page, I'm not sure what page you got to.
That one.
And then log in to GitHub, continue with GitHub, log into Gitpod, click continue with GitHub. And then hopefully everybody's at this spot now. Anybody not at this spot now? Are you getting close to this spot now? Maybe yes, maybe no. You're not even close to this spot. What spot are you on?
And what's the farthest?
Oh, oh,
I was wrong.
okay. You know what?
Sorry.
Join. I go through the account process for joining GitHub right now. And then, oh, you did? Okay, so can you get to this spot now? So you should, once you go to this link here, the login to Gitpod. Do you have a question? You're okay, okay. Okay, we're gonna go, don't worry, I'm gonna come back for you because we're gonna do something that's gonna require everybody to sit around for a minute in a second. So you'll catch up. Okay, so now you get to this spot which says create a new workspace. All right, and once you click that, it's actually moved. Okay, you wanna find the workspace associated with this account that you've just created. So in my case, it's github.com, Philip M. Johnson, change-hide.github.io. Okay, so you want to select that workspace. Is everybody, how many people have not found that yet? You good?
Just place our name with your name. and
You'd
ours.
use a pull down, click the little arrow to pull down a list. And then if you scroll through, you should find, a repo that has your name, not mine. Let's say github.com/your GitHub user account /change_hi.github.io. And you may have to scroll around a little bit. If you can't find it, you could just type it in if you can remember what your GitHub username is. How many people have found their GitHub repo? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now that we've done that, this is the step that's going to take a couple minutes so folks can catch up if they're having a little problems. Click continue. And it's going to open a workspace. Okay. And then what's going to appear is this screen's going to appear. And at the bottom, you're going to see a terminal window appear. And you're going to see a bunch of green text, which says a lot of things, some of which I don't even know what it means. But it doesn't matter. It's actually just installing a bunch of libraries that enable you to do local development of this repo. And you'll see green, 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 green. And you just sit and wait until the bottom line is in blue rather than green. So as long as all you're seeing at the bottom of this window is green, you have to chillax. This is the moment for folks who are a little bit behind to make some progress. And if you want me to look at what you're doing, I can. Let me look. Let me get my glasses.
I think for me, it's like I have this year, I just haven't, can't find my.
Good.
It's- I didn't publish my, that's why I didn't put the.
Change the way you.
See, that's here.
Go ahead to go to. No, you want to click on. Did you make a fork?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. You got to make a fork. So you got to go to go to that. Okay, and then you see the fork. Okay, looks good. Say create fork.
Yeah.
And then it will appear.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so at the bottom, okay, if people really get into the weeds, the backup plan is for you to just work with your partner. Okay, so if 1 out of 2 of you make it successfully through for today, you'll still be able to get kind of everything out of it. You just won't have your own repo at the end, and we can troubleshoot later. All right, so you can see at the bottom here, there's some green text that says Gitpod workspace change hi.github.io main and a $sign. How many people have that at the bottom of their screen? Sweet. Are you?
It'll be here in 1 second.
Okay, all right. All right, you can wait another couple seconds. I'm so relieved most of you got to this spot. This was like the fear that Gitpod would blow up on me. So now everything's going to be easy from now on. Okay. So we do this, we get the new workspace. All right, now you can see, hopefully, everybody's pretty much at this spot where it's blue. Okay. And so the next thing you can do, and what I would recommend you do, is go to this page, select that text, type propeller C, if you're on a Mac, and then go back into your Gitpod window, click on that terminal window at the bottom, and do propeller V. Oh my God. There we go. Okay. And what you can see is that I've just pasted bundle exec Jekyll serve into that window. All right. Now you can just type, if you like to type, just type bundle exec Jekyll serve into the bottom of this window. Right. So right after the blue text, type bundle exec Jekyll serve. If you want to just type it, or you can copy and paste it, whatever you prefer. Okay. Having done that, our next pain point. Okay, type return. Okay. And if all goes according to plan, you're going to see this little window pop up saying a service is available on port 4000. What do you want to do? You can say make public. It's fine. Okay. How are we doing? Are people seeing text similar to this? You guys are awesome. Should be in the computer science department, wherever you are.
Actually,
What this is there is a Unix server in the cloud that is configured to look at this repo, extract from it what are the libraries that are interesting, install those libraries automatically on that little virtual box that is created, and provide you with a terminal window that you can use to run commands on. So this is a little virtual Unix box in the cloud that's smart enough to actually figure out what libraries need to be installed to configure them.
otherwise you'd have to do that yourself.
Otherwise, you'd have to do something like that yourself. So Sean was the one that showed me this last year. He was like, "Hey, have you heard of GitPod?" I'm like, "No." Holy crap, this thing is awesome. All right. So anyway, okay. So now if you've made that public, or even if you haven't, what you can now do is go hover. This is hard to see, but if you hover, you might want to stand up. If you hover your mouse over that http://121.0.0.14000, okay? If you hover over that, then a little window will pop up that says follow link. Okay, you want to follow that link. Okay?
No problem.
It doesn't give you an option to not follow it. So just follow it. All right, so I'm going to follow that link. And what happens, you follow the link, a new browser tab will appear, and in it is the changehawaii.edu site. Okay? Now the crazy thing is, look at your address bar. 4000 dash Philip M. John dash, yours is going to be different, but it's this crazy kind of URL. Who knows what that is? Okay. So what's happened now is you started when we went to GitHub and you went to the Change Hawaii site and you said make a fork. The source code for the site was copied, and a copy of it was placed in your own personal GitHub account. Okay. Then you went to Gitpod and you said, Gitpod, I want you to load the contents of that repo, my personal repo. And so it did that. Okay. And it figured out what libraries would need to be installed to run that site. And then you said bundle exec Jekyll serve, and then it ran the site, and then you said, I want to follow that link, right? Because it popped up a window. And what it's done is it's created this public link that's running your own personal version of the Change Hawaii site. Okay. Now, what's really crazy, if you click that make public link, what's super crazy and cool is that you can take this address, cut and paste it, put it into Slack, send it to somebody else, and somebody else can see this site that you just built, as long as it's running on GitHub. Okay. Pardon?
And that person who clicks on the link edit this?
No.
Or no?
No, they just have this read-only, view of it. Okay? All right. What is this Nokogiri stuff? Did anybody run into Nokogiri problems? Yay. Forget about that. Don't worry about it. Okay? All right, so we've gone through this. We've done bundle exec Jekyll serve. That actually, what this is kind of doing is this is almost like saying compile the source code of my site, convert it to HTML, and run a little web server so that I can display it at a URL. If that doesn't make sense, what I just said, it doesn't matter. Okay. But for people for whom that made sense, that's what happened. All you have to really know is that when I have to run this command bundle exec Jekyll serve to actually have that URL appear. Okay, and you know that because once you ran bundle exec Jekyll serve, that link was made available to you. The only way you get a link that you can click on to go to the site is by running bundle exec Jekyll serve first. Okay, now what we're going to find is that when we edit the site and we want to see our changes, we'll have to do Control-C to stop that program, that bundle program from running. And then we'll have to type in bundle exec Jekyll serve again to restart the program. So now it will see that change and recompile the changes, and then the site will be updated. Now you're not going to ever have to type bundle exec Jekyll serve again once you've typed it once, because in Unix, there's this awesome little command called Control-P that retrieves the last command. So we'll see that in a second. All right, so how many people have the site running in a browser tab? Almost. Not even close.
Here.
Okay.
Fine.
Oh, good. Oh, that's good. Oh, you're great. Type bundle exec Jekyll serve. You're almost there. We've almost caught up. It's kind of cool. I thought, what are people going to do while they're waiting for the libraries to be loaded? And in fact, that's like a little bit of buffer time for. All right. Okay, so we get this follow pop-up. Okay, and then we see this site. Okay, what time is it now? Oh, I'm only 7 minutes. Okay, so now we're going to click. So we've done this whole introduction part, and now the workshop setup. Now we're going to go to the next experience, which is called workshop development. Okay, and what you're going to do now that we've got the site running, things get fun. Okay, all that stuff was the boring stuff. Even for me, a computer scientist who likes to type crazy Unix commands and make things happen. All right, the fun part is actually developing content. And that's, once you've gotten through that initial setup process, fairly straightforward. Okay, so what we're going to do, I didn't want to have you like actually build the whole workshop for the class today, because then what would you be doing for the rest of the year? Right? That would be bad. So instead, we're all going to work on a workshop called Best Recipe Ever. Okay, where you will kind of play around with the process of workshop development by working with your partner to decide what is the single best recipe that's ever been invented in the history of human civilization, and then provide a workshop that explains to other people how to create that recipe. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's see how to do that. The first thing is, if we go back into the tab that has our Gitpod repo, can everybody go back to this one? So display something like this on your screen. How many people are there? Okay. So now click on the MOREA tab. The little right angle bracket, the greater than sign, next to the MOREA text field, and it will expand the contents of the MOREA subdirectory. So this is This is right over here. This is actually the contents of that repository. When I say repository, does that freak anybody out? Do people kind of understand what I mean by a repository? Repository is just a directory of files that's stored at GitHub that for which it's easy to make copies of it, and it's easy to take a modified version of that directory where some files have been altered and merge those changes back into the original directory. Okay, so when you hear me say repo, basically I just mean a directory of files stored at GitHub. Okay, and which you can make clones of. You can actually, we're not doing it today, but you could clone that repo onto your actual laptop and have the file stored there. Although this Gitpod thing is way easier to use, so that's what we're doing today. Anyway, expand MOREA. Okay, and then the very first thing there is best recipe ever. So let's look inside that directory. So if there's a little greater than sign next to a text field, that means that's a directory. So now we're in the change Hawaii repo, we're in the subdirectory MOREA, we're in the subdirectory of MOREA called best recipe ever. Does that make sense? All right, then I want you to go to the file module best recipe ever and double click it. Okay, and you should see something like this. And actually, you can notice these things are actually adjustable. So I would say, if you want, for better usability, you could make that terminal screen pretty small. All right, so now what I've done is terminal screen is way down here. It's horrible, really, for right now, but would be good on your laptop. And then the file, module best recipe ever.md. MD is a suffix that means markdown. By the way, how many people have ever heard of markdown? Oh, I should have distributed you. This is going to be the power group here because they both know markdown. For the rest of you that don't know markdown, this is a programming language that takes 67 seconds to learn. Okay, it's super easy. It's just a very simple way to format text. Yeah. Anyway, so you're displaying this file, and what we're going to do, you can see on this line 2, it says published false. Okay, if you've gone to the Change Hawaii site, you may have said to yourself, I don't see a module for best recipe ever. Okay, and the reason why you don't see it, even though it's in the repository, is because this published field is set to false. Let's change that now. So everybody can go ahead and click on published false and set it to true. Okay, then you should type propeller S to save that file. And then go down here and click in the terminal window. So that's, the focus has gone there. And then type Control C. And again, you'll have to look. But down at the bottom, you can see that I typed Control C, and now I get that blue text indicating that I'm back at the command line. Okay? All right, now this is where the magic of Unix comes in, because instead of typing, now what have we done? Okay, right, we've changed the source files in the GitHub repo to say best recipe ever module is now published. Published is true. But we want to actually see the effect of that change in an actual site, right? So the way we do that is we go to our terminal window, we type Control C to exit the bundle program, then type Control P, which retrieves the last command, which happens to be bundle exec Jekyll cert. Yeah.
What did you say before Control C?
Control C. What did I say before Control C?
Isn't it like
Slash S?
Is it Propeller S?
Propeller, I said propeller S. You know, the propeller key on Macs. I mean, some people call it command, but I think propeller is a way better way to look at it. No, this is a term of my own invention. Actually, you'll never hear that anywhere else in the world except if you're listening to me give instructions. So, sorry, yes.
So you have to have like the bundle exec open to be able to make the changes.
No, you can make changes anytime. But in order to see the changes, which we're about to try to see, you have to stop bundle exec if it's running and then restart it. So if bundle exec wasn't running before, it doesn't matter. You make the changes and then you start the program in order to see them. Okay. All right, so I retrieved bundle exec Jekyll serve. I type return. That started up our program again. Okay. And in fact, in my case, I get this service is available on port 4000. So what I want to say is open browser. Okay. And that takes me to the site, the same site again that I was before. And now if I click on the modules link, what do we get? Oh, terrible, you can hardly read it. But now the module, the workshop, best recipe ever, now appears on the modules page. Okay, so it's always been in the change UI repo all along, but because publish was false, no one knew about it. But now we made publish true in your local copy, and so now you can see it. That makes sense to everybody? Okay, so while we're here, let's click into this workshop. Okay. And what you can see is that this workshop, like all the other workshops, has some learning outcomes. In this case, you can successfully shop for the best recipe ever. You can successfully prepare the best recipe ever. Okay. And then there's an icebreaker, because all good workshops start with an icebreaker. There's an experience or a segment of the workshop where you explain how to shop for the best recipe ever. And then there's another experience where you explain how to prepare the best recipe ever. And then following that, there's a segment of the workshop called What's Next, where you tell people, now that you know how to prepare the best recipe ever, what would be a logical next step? By the way, what do you think would be a good next step once you know how to prepare the best recipe ever? Start a restaurant, make millions, get a Michelin star, right? I mean, it's the best recipe ever, right? Okay, so there's that, and this is again trying to, exemplify what a good workshop looks like. It starts with an icebreaker to get people to know each other. There's some steps where you learn a skill, which is in this case preparing the best recipe. And then there's a concluding thing where it says, okay, now coming out of this workshop, what would you do next, having a part of this skill? Okay, and then also there's an assessment where people can say, I don't know, man, I didn't really learn that second step about the flambe or the dousing the Cointreau or whatever it was. Didn't get that. All right, let's see where we are in the, okay. So we set publish to true. Here's the control C, control P, return. Now we see best recipe ever. We look through that. Okay, and now I'm supposed to give you a code review. Okay. All right, so let's look at this subdirectory. Okay, the subdirectory has itself a subdirectory with a figure in it. We won't worry about this, but we have a bunch of files in here. We have a file called assessment with some stuff. We've got a file that's a logo. We've got several files that start with experience, right? And then we've got a file called module, and we've got a file called outcome. Now, quick quiz, what does MOREA, the acronym, stand for? What is the M? Module. What's the O? What's the R? Yeah. Good look here. Reading, right? What's the E? Experience. What's the A? Assessment. Yeah. We've got them all here. Okay. So if we flip back and forth here, what you can see is it starts with, we say this whole page is a module. It consists of an outcome, one or more outcomes. one or more experiences. Oh, we don't have any readings in this one. Oh, well. But you could have readings, and we have assessments. So we have almost all of the 5 things, just not the readings. Okay. Now, if we go back to this subdirectory and we look at this module file, what we can see is that this file contains some crazy looking text, but if you look at it, you can see, oh, here's where we say what the outcomes are for this module. Here's where we say what the readings are. There are none. Here's where we say what the experiences are. Okay, here's where we see where the assessments are. And if you look at these words or these fields here, you can see they correspond exactly to the files. They're not exactly the same. There's no .md on the end. Okay, but otherwise they correspond exactly. And and it turns out you don't have to do it that way, but boy, is it easier if you do that. Okay, so what's happening here, what you'll see is, so the idea of MOREA is you have these objects. It defines an object called a module, an object called an outcome, an object called a reading, etc. And the definition of all those objects are each in their own file. And when you define an object of a given type, in this case, MOREA type module, okay, you have to provide an ID. All right, and by convention in all these workshops, we specify an ID, which is basically exactly the same as the file name without the prefix. That just makes life easy, because you don't have to do that, but as a convention, it just makes things simple to understand. Okay, so that's the module definition, where we specify all of the different things that are going to be in there, all the outcomes, the regions, and so forth. Let's now look at this outcome file. Okay, so the outcome file says the type of this object is an outcome. The ID is exactly the same as the file name. And then below these 3 dashes, there is an asterisk in markdown format that makes an itemized list, and then some text. Okay, and as a result of defining that file, we get this text appear in the actual produce site with all the fancy formatting and color blocking and so forth. Okay, does that make sense? All right, if we go back here, let's look at experience best ever icebreaker. All right, so we've got the type of this is an experience. Here's the ID, exactly the same name, exactly the same as the file name. We have a label, and then we have markdown text. So this pound sign says in markdown, if you have a pound sign and a space, it says the rest of that line should be a title. So in big text. Okay, if you had 2 pound signs in a row and a space, then that's also a headline, but smaller. It's kind of a second level text. And you can do 1 pound sign, 2, 3, 4, 5. You do a lot of them to get sections and subsections. Okay, and then the text of this is break into small groups, try to find some people you haven't met yet, task, and then with an asterisk, I have some text here that you would replace with the actual icebreaker. And because has an asterisk on either end, that makes it italicized. Okay. And then we've got some other crazy little markdown thing here, which creates a button to go to the next stage. So let's see what this page looks like when it's actually rendered. Click icebreaker. Okay, this is what it looks like when it's on the web in HTML format. People see how this is correlating? Okay. Gotta get rid of this Zoom thing. So then we can click this link. We go to the next one, shop for the best recipe ever. Replace this sentence with your instructions. Prepare the best recipe ever. What's next? And assessment. So there are all of the 5 pages. That makes sense to everybody? Okay, so it's now 3:10. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys 5 minutes, stretch, go to visit the restroom if you want to, take a drink of water. When you get back though, your task, should you decide to accept it, with your partner, implement this workshop. Get like 15 minutes. Okay, all right, so 5 minutes, see you at 3:15. Thank you. Our AI overlords. So 25 minutes, you're only going to get 15 minutes to do this. Doesn't really matter. It's kind of arbitrary. I just want to give you a taste for the process of editing text in a file, in a workshop, directory, and then rerunning the site and seeing your changes. Okay. And you can work in a group. So at this point, it's up to you if you just want to have one person typing and another person looking, or both people can type. Doesn't really matter. Okay. And so the first thing is you have to decide what the best recipe ever is. I know that could easily take up the entire 15 minutes you have for this activity. So instead, I recommend that you spend 1 minute arguing about the best recipe ever, because that'll be fun. And so might as well have fun for a minute. Okay. But after a minute, just come to some consensus about what you're going to use. Okay. And then I would edit the icebreaker file to start. Okay. So find the experience best recipe ever icebreaker.md file, type in what you would have for an icebreaker. All right. And then you want to see the results in a browser. So type Control-C, Control-P, return, or yeah, Control-C, Control-P, return. That stops the bundle program from running, restarts it, and then you should be able to look in the browser, maybe refresh the page, and you should see your changes. If you don't see your changes, then something's gone wrong. Okay, so the whole part of this next 15 minutes is just getting used to the idea of I'm going to change some files, I'm going to rerun the system, I'm going to look in a browser to see if the changes are what I wanted to have. Okay, that's kind of the step A. Then if you get done with the icebreaker in 15 minutes, go onto the shopping page, okay, and start thinking about what you might want to shop for. Now, if you want to start getting advanced, you might think to yourself, well, if this was really a workshop, I'd like to see a picture of the broccoli, or whatever it is. All right. Well, how am I going to do that? Okay. And I'll leave that as a kind of thought bubble for you. Okay, but it's pretty easy to do. What you'll end up doing is you'll have to find a picture of a broccoli someplace, get the file on your laptop, and then, which is a JPEG file or a PNG or something like that. Then you'll upload it to Gitpod. Okay, and you'll see in the right-hand side, there's a little like upload file selection. Once that file is in the directory with best recipe ever, then you have to create a link to it in your markdown file. All right, so that's kind of the rough order of steps. Whether you can do that in 15 minutes if you're not experienced with markdown is kind of a stretch. So don't worry about it if you decide not to do it. It's very easy, but it might take a little bit longer. You get through it, the edit, the shopping, try editing the preparation page. And then I have a kind of some links to some other things which you can look at to find out more about markdown. 15 minutes, you could easily spend that just fiddling around with one image. So whatever kind of you feel like working on during this time is fine. Just as long as you've had a chance to kind of make some changes and rebuild the system and see the changes, that's all I really care about. Does that make sense? All right, so 1 minute to argue with your partner about the best recipe ever, and then 14 minutes to work on your files, changing them, starting now. Go ahead.
I like it, it's my. Yeah, I'm not. Okay. I think so it's just say for
One over 3 days.
yeah, we say that you're
So there, anything here before. This and that. Yeah.
Ingredients. So.
We just have to do the ashes. The ashes to make it first. Okay. Okay.
Driving too slow.
Wait, tuna,
Yes.
oh. Yeah. How is
Oh, we just need to.
So on this line, this is the durable email. Oh, yeah, when we just say that, we can give Oh, it's just to keep it next. It's gonna all it is.
Besides cities.
No. Okay.
Okay, 5 minutes left.
Which one of the other workshops have an picture?
Which one of the other workshops has a picture? It's a great question.
Onboarding.
So what I would do is I would start looking around. Let's try.
I guess I was looking at my board, okay, everything's just pretty safe. And then.
Maybe in creative thinking, I would try that one. So then if I go to modules, creative thinking. Oh, shoot, it's coming soon.
Okay, totally wrong.
You know what? You just here. Yeah. Let's go to, we know how to fix that, right? Module, or maybe you don't yet. You can go to module creative thinking and then say Maria coming soon, false. And then propeller S. And then control C, control P.
Yeah, there we go.
Now we go into creative thinking. Okay, so what is, did you get it to happen?
Yes, you're not creative thinking.
So what does science say about creativity? Yeah, there's a picture. Yeah, yeah. I forgot to talk about that, but yeah, you know, like now you have complete control over everything, so. Okay, 2 minutes.
progress and how we. That's what I'm saying. It's usually is,
All right, so that was fun. Okay. All right, so let's pretend. I have everything. I know you're like so engaged. It's crazy to rip yourself away from your best recipe ever. But let's just pretend that you finished the workshop. Okay. The only problem is you're like in this crazy GitPod place, right? Where nobody can see your amazing workshop unless they happen to have that crazy link. Okay. So the next step, kind of not necessarily the final step, but kind of to complete the process. The next thing is you want to tell the Change Hawaii people, like those folks over there, hey, my workshop is done. I want it on the site, the actual changehawaii.github.io site. Okay, and the way you do that is we're going to go to the next segment here. Okay, so the way you do that is called, you're going to commit your changes and you're going to issue a pull request. Okay, so basically you got your local copy of the code. You're going to do this thing called commit your changes, which is to say you're going to take the changed files that are running in Gitpod and you're going to push those changes to your personal account on GitHub. All right, and then the second thing you're going to do is you're going to issue a pull request. And what that says is you're going to have GitHub inform the administrators of the Change Hawaii site that, hey, I've made some changes to that repo in my own personal fork. I want you to merge those changes into the official site. Does that make sense? So right now you've got kind of files out in Never Never Land. The first thing is you want to commit them to GitHub, so they're saved there. And then the second thing is you want to say to the administrators, I'd like to have these changes merged. So how do we do that? Okay, what you want to do is you want to first notice that there's this little badge thingy next to this crazy little network icon thingy on the left-hand side of your screen. Can everybody see that? Or if you've been working with a friend, you can look on their screen and see it. Okay, this indicates that files have, it actually indicates how many files have been changed while you've been editing. In my case, I didn't do much, so there's only 2 files that have been changed. Okay. But what we can do now, if we click on that icon, okay, we get this new window that pops up that has this thing that says commit, and then it shows you all the files that you've changed, which is nice. You're gonna get some feedback. Okay. Let me make sure I do this in the way I've instructed you. Okay, so there we can see a bunch of changes. Okay, so the first thing is type an informative message into the message text field. So we go up here and we say, made whatever you want, best recipe ever, workshop. Okay, so you type something in there. It could look like that. Okay, and then there's a little arrow at the extreme right-hand side of that commit button. Click that arrow to pop up a menu of possible ways to do a commit. And the one you want is commit and create pull request. So let's all do that. Or those of you who are actually, doing things. If you click that, things.
I don't know, I'm saying you just call.
Oh,
Let me look and see what you guys actually have. Okay. Click commit and sync. Oh, I'm super irritated right now, but I'll figure out why you don't get that changed. Okay. All right. Um. Okay, all of these things I have to figure out how to fix. So let me figure out why you're not getting that menu item, and then I'll let you know. But in general, if you get that menu item, then you'll see the sequence of screens, and then a pull request will be made. Yeah.
Mine says I don't have permission to push to my account on GitHub. I have to make a new report. If you want to look.
I'm gonna have to look at that. Yeah. Pardon?
You have to log in with the GitHub account. So there is a GitHub icon on the website.
There's a GitHub icon.
Yeah. Sign in. Yeah.
Oh, this.
Yeah, that's.
Oh.
Sign in, you have to update the permissions. GitHub. To do it, you can just give everything, all the permissions to GitHub. And then you get access to that.
Dude, I want you to like take over the workshop right now because I've never had to do this. So if you click on this GitHub icon, what comes up next?
This says sign in. So you click on that.
Are people, yeah, so try to do that, everybody. Let's see if this is what will fix it. I don't know how you guys aren't logged into GitHub though. It's so crazy. I don't know. I don't know either.
What do you do once you hit the settings? It says I'm already allowed to.
Okay, so now I don't see a thing to give permissions.
So the side, you do edit permissions.
Oh, like here? I only see pull requests and
Oh,
issues.
no,
It's in GitHub.
I'm GitHub.
You have to go to GitHub?
Like, if you click the GitHub icon,
I click the GitHub icon. I just get this.
oh, cause you,
Go to GitHub.
Okay, let's go. Okay, I'm gonna try to go to GitHub.
if you click the three dots, you can do open on GitHub. Next to pull requests.
Oh, how about configure? Will that help? No, that doesn't help. I'm gonna go to GitHub. Wait. Open on GitHub. Which GitHub repository do I want to open? I want to open this one.
Yeah. But then like, once you get started.
And then I have to give Gitpod permission to do pull requests.
It's on the GitHub.
It's on the Gitpod.
Like you already have the permission, so you can't show.
I know.
it, but-
It's so annoying. Okay. So what I really want is someone to send me can you send me screenshots of like what your screen is showing so I can, because I don't even, I've done this like many times and I've never had this issue. So I don't even know. It's obviously because I'm,
Yes.
the owner of several accounts.
Easier way to do it is to go to github.io, then your account settings, and then click on to update permissions on the.
I see what you're saying. Wait, let me go to a different. Okay, so gitpod.io. Okay, here I am,
Your account.
in my account,
Settings,
user settings,
Git providers. So that-
git providers.
And yeah, one on the middle, three dots, right?
Oh,
Okay, it's small thing. Git permissions. Got to be all this information.
epic win. Okay. I'll remember this and update the instructions. Okay, so you can say whatever, all of this. I must have done this like a long time in the past and not realized that I did it. Okay, awesome. Does everybody see that? This is useful, not in the workshop instructions. But actually you do it once and then you're basically done. You're golden forever. Okay. All right, so since time is running short, we won't do that today. Okay, but basically you issue this pull request and then an administrator can look at your changes and help you figure out anything that needs to be done before they merge it. And then it will go in the official repository. All right. All right, demo time. Okay, so go to your crazy URL that's showing you your best recipe ever site. Okay, and then take that and do a propeller C to copy it, and then go into Slack, and then go to, is this us, change Hawaii general channel, and paste that in like I just did. Okay, and as long as your site, you've typed bundle exec Jekyll serve and you haven't typed control C, then other people will be able to see your site until you control C, and then it will go away. Okay, we've got one. All right. So if I click on a workshop, it's crashing and burning. Okay, yeah, so, well, it's a me problem. So if you didn't necessarily give public permissions, there we go, this one worked. Okay. Share your most funny cooking experience. That's a good icebreaker. All right, and we'll just do one other to see if we can do it. Kelly's. Okay, here we go. Icebreaker. Share a time when you thought you were making the best recipe ever, but it went horribly wrong. Okay, that's great. So just for fun, let's just go. I just want to hear what these recipes are that you guys pick. So what did your group pick?
Fried chicken.
Fried chicken.
Double fried.
Nice. Chocolate chip cookies.
Spicy fish head ramen.
Spicy fish head ramen. Delish. Okay, how about you guys?
With butter.
Butter chicken, nice.
I don't have a partner, so I just get biryani. So it's a South Asian.
You know, my ears are like. What kind of food?
It's biryani.
Biryani. Love biryani. I might have it tonight, actually, because I'm hoping to go to Cafe Maharani for it. How about you guys?
I did gnocchi.
I like it. This group could not come to consensus. They went their own way. They said, screw it. We have two pastors. So you had gnocchi, all right? And you had vegan meatloaf. Okay. Awesome. All right. Anyway, this is how it works. Okay. So you've been through kind of the whole process. All right. What's next? Okay, so now we're actually popping out of like that, like make a workshop exercise. We're now back to the actual lecture about making a workshop. Okay, feels like we're in, what's that movie, Inception? You know, yeah. Okay, so what did we learn today? We learned how to design a workshop. We went through some of the procedures. We spent some time on implementing a workshop using the MOREA framework. Okay, and those are two very distinct things. One is like, how should a workshop be structured? Yeah, you want to mix experiences and lectures, you want to have an icebreaker, all those kind of components. And then the second thing is fiddling around with Gitpod and using, the MOREA stuff and Markdown and all that, the implementation stuff. Okay, so there's, there's a link here. So what you're going to do, what's next for you is that you're all going to be involved in presenting a workshop sometime during the year, which will involve you having to make changes to an existing workshop or creating a new one. So that's what's next. And if you want some more help on how to design a workshop, there's a link you can follow here with a little checklist of things. Plus, there's a lot of other documentation over there. And for implementing it, there's a whole section of the MOREA framework site that's specific to this, this group and how to use MOREA in the context of this particular program. Okay, so what I recommend you think about is the next thing you're going to do in about a minute is you're going to go fill out a form where you can express your preferences as to what workshops you'd like to help present this semester. And then Shivani, you're going to actually choose once they've expressed their preferences, which ones how does that going to work?
Yeah, so if you, navigate to the spreadsheet.
Or let me just finish
Yeah.
the steps and then she'll explain what to do. So you'll pick a workshop, then you'll meet with the advisor for that workshop. So you have a faculty advisor who will help you with it. And I would suggest at least 3 weeks prior, okay, to kind of talk about what you're going to do. If the workshop's been held before, which often will be the case, there are assessment results, which we can show you, that explain what worked well, what didn't work well from last time. And that gives you a basis for kinds of improvements you want to make. You can also look at the workshop design checklist, because, for example, a lot of workshops in the past didn't have an icebreaker at the beginning. And the icebreaker is like the most fun thing, so you want to put one of those in, and various other kinds of things you can see from the checklist. Then you go implement it, improve it, doing just what you did. Instead of going to the best recipe ever directory, you go to the directory with the actual workshop and you make changes in there, create a pull request. That failed catastrophically today, but we'll get that fixed for next time. And then, bam, then you actually deliver it. Okay, that makes sense to everybody? All right, so the next step is pick your workshop. So go to this step 9, and now Shivani, I'll click on the form and you can tell us what they should do.
This is a great first workshop of this semester. Thank you very much. There are 13 workshops that we will be presenting as pairs, so please rank them, the top choice being 1, and then the one that you don't really want to do is 13. We're trying to accommodate your choices, but again, because there are 13 workshops and there are 11 fellows, folks might end up doing more than 2 workshops potentially. But just to make sure everyone has a good chance at looking through the workshop titles and having a chance to kind of rank the workshop that you like, please rank all of the workshops, 1 being the one that you really want to do, and 13 being the one that you're not really sure on. And again, we will try to accommodate your requests, but because of the logistics that come together.
How long do they have? Because this, I think it'll be hard for you to actually figure this out right this second.
Yeah, I
So-
will get back to you by Monday with
Yeah.
the workshop assignments.
Okay.
So you should have plenty of time. The next meeting will not be a workshop, it will be a meeting on my IDP, that's on the 15th. The tech lawyers workshop is going to be in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So if you do pick that workshop, please reach out to Philip and coordinate with him. And even if he cares, we might come up with people like in terms of troubleshooting and challenges.
And you can see for a bunch of these workshops, they are, if you go to the ChangeWise site, many of these are there. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make them all, I'm going to change them from coming soon to actually clickable. So you can go in and kind of take a look at them before you decide.
Philip, do you want to share the archive on there with them so that the kids can look?
Oh, that's an idea. Yeah, what is that? That's a good idea. I'll do that. I can't remember. Do you remember what the link is?
Yeah.
Why don't you just, so there's an archive from last year that Shivani will send to this general channel, and then you can.
Apologies, the Slack channel is for fellows, so if you can look at don't worry about that. But archive level, ones will be, on that section.
Okay, so if you could in the next basically day or so, go ahead and fill out your preferences, but you can navigate around and take a look at some workshops before that. But right now, what I'd like to ask you to do, since we're at the last 10 minutes of this workshop, could you go to this last link, help us assess this workshop? And then you're a participant, okay? And there's a link to the participant survey available here. So if you could click that link, that takes you at a page that looks like this, okay? And if you could fill that out. So this will be great for me for next year and for if a student is helping me. So I would get assessment results now and I can improve this workshop for next time. Obviously, I got to fix the pull request thing for next time. But if you could fill that out now, that would be great. You get there by going to this page, help us assess this workshop, and that's this bottom link of the MOREA site on design and implementation of workshops. So we were, if you just kind of go to any of these pages and just keep clicking the button, you'll get to a button, assess this workshop. And then inside there, there's the link. You get there?
Like ghost. Okay.
Oh, that was, you weren't in the actual site, you were in your, yeah, right.
Lesson learned.
You want, when you get done, you can put your laptop covers down and then I'll get your. How you doing? All right, it's 4 o'clock. Thank you guys so much for coming. You're still finishing the form, just go ahead and finish it. Rest of you, I'll see you around. If you have issues with MOREA, you know who to call, or text, or Slack, or Discord. Insta, whatever it is. All right, see you guys. Thank you.
Yeah.